of alien life forms on Earth, something that was collected from the bottom of the sea, those tiny ball bearings, and they say, this has been formed by a life form outside our galaxy.
It's a theory, that, isn't it? I mean, so there's a theory there. And so you can get the little things, and we will analyse them and have a look. I mean, I wouldn't. It's funny because you mentioned social media. I think occasionally on social media, I'll quite often I'll tweet something, and there'll be quite a few people who disagree reasonably strongly with what I said. And one of them is the UFO thing. There are people who really believe that there are UFOs visiting the Earth. And I always say that, I haven't seen any evidence of that I think is strong evidence. Yeah. It's a huge claim that there are other civilizations out there that are visiting us. But I wouldn't be surprised, in a strict sense, that if I said to someone the other day, if a big UFO came now, we walk outside and over Westminster, there's a spaceship hovering, I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised, because I know that there are trillions of planets in the Milky Way galaxy alone and hundreds of billions of stars, and there's been a lot of time. And one of the great mysteries actually in physics is why we don't seem to see much out there, anything. We haven't, there's strong evidence of nothing out there at all at the moment. We have no strong evidence of any life beyond Earth. And that's a puzzle and a paradox. So it's about, with those claims, you don't rule them out. If someone says, well, I found this thing at the bottom of the sea and I think it's really weird, then the correct thing to do is go, okay, we'll put it in a lab and get an electron microscope and prod it around and find out just how weird it is. And nature, Feynman again said, the thing to remember is nature does not care at all what you think. Nature just doesn't. It doesn't matter who you are or how famous you are, how many letters you've got before or after your name, whatever. It doesn't matter. Nature just is. So if indeed an alien spacecraft crashed into wherever it was that they found these things 1 billion years ago and left all the fragments there and we've dug them up, then that's interesting, isn't it? but that's it.
Oh, very.
That's, but if it didn't, then that's also interesting, because then we get a profound puzzle about why there don't seem to be many civilizations around.
But what I love about your answer to that, Brian, is that you tread that line between being agnostic and saying, I don't know, versus being cynical by saying, I know, and that's not right. And I'm interested in walking that line.
It's a good question. I mean, because with that, it's quite a profound claim that there's a piece of if that's what it was. It's Avi Loeb, isn't it? He's a professor at Harvard, I think. Yeah. So it's quite a profound claim that this is a piece of a spacecraft or something from outside the solar system. And the correct thing is to say, well, that's an interesting theory. Let's have a look. It might be. So I would have no basis for saying, well, that's nonsense.
Right.
It's a completely contentless statement, isn't it? I don't know. How will I know? It might be. So then
when you talk about social media, then, so you do go on there and you do elicit some strong reactions from people.
Well, I'm from Oldham. I can't help it. That's the thing. I don't know whether it's a character flaw or a positive part of my character, but there is an element of that, isn't it?
What is it that keeps you humble to be able to accept these diverse views?
But for me, I think this might sound great, it's nature, right? In the sense that we talked about the transferable skill of science. And because I spent most of my time actually learning how to be a research scientist, you're just wrong all the time. It's practice, actually. Feynman, again, I keep going back to Feynman. He was wonderful. He's a great philosopher, although he hated philosophy. Well, he acted as though he hated philosophy, right? But he said that. He said scientists have a very great experience with being wrong. And that's probably the transferable skill. Because it goes back to this thing, you can't argue with let's say you're trying to understand how a star works.
Yep.
And you go, I think it works like this. And then you look at the star and the star doesn't work like that. You can't start shouting at a star, can you? Because it's bigger than you and you're not going to win the argument. You never win an argument with nature.
So what would you say has been the most powerful revelation about yourself that you've discovered was wrong?
Oh, in terms of science, it's almost all the time when you're doing research. You have a feeling that you understand some new data and you have a sense that there might be something there. I mean, I did particle physics for a long time, which is working at places like CERN and Fermilab in Chicago. And those places, you get loads of data and you sit there on your computer looking at this new data, collisions of particles. And one of the things, the golden scenario, the Nobel Prize would be if you saw a new particle. You've discovered a new one. I mean, no one ever did. Well, the Higgs particle is a good example of when we did, very rarely. But late at night, because you've got loads of data, it's like tossing a coin and it comes up heads 20 times. And you go, no, there's something there. There's something there. And you can convince yourself there's something. You keep going. And, I've not got a Nobel Prize, right? So every time I thought that, it went away. Right, every time. But otherwise, I would be a Nobel Prize winning physicist.
You keep going back, though.
But because, that you're trying to understand nature and you're trying, and very occasionally, there'll be something that will stand up and something new will appear. But that process of it goes back right to what we talked about at the start, that process of trying to understand something that's difficult to understand and forming views and models and opinions and then finding out that most of the time you're not right. Oppenheimer and find that they were right when they said that skill you should transfer. That's hard as well. Mm. So saying don't only do it with little particle physics and little graphs on your computer screen, do it with your political views. Then it gets harder. Mm. But if you understand what those great thinkers were actually telling you to do, it is that. It's saying you understand now, you've done some practice, you're not right when you're trying to understand nature. Now imagine you're not right with your view about the top level of tax or whatever it is. Imagine you're not right about that as well.
So what's been the biggest thing that you've changed your mind on then, that for you personally, that like away from physics or your professional life?
It's a good question, that. I mean, I think in politics, so I've been through a long learning process for something I didn't agree with. So let's say Brexit. So let's be careful talking about Brexit, but right. Something I didn't agree with. And so I've learned to try to understand why a majority of voters voted for it. It's not because they're wrong, right? Even though I don't agree with it. It's like, what is it that is wanted? Why would someone come to the opinion that doing something that I think is the wrong thing to do is the right thing to do? And perhaps it is the right thing to do. So what is the data that might come in that would say to me, well, actually, no, I was wrong there?